What if your DNA carried the silent echoes of conquest, survival, and forbidden love? What if hidden inside the cells of every Chilean, there lived 1,000 voices, some whispering in the language of warriors, some crying in the tongue of lost empires, some singing the songs of hope from distant conquered shores, in the far-flung deserts of the Atacama, where the earth cracks and thirsts under a pitiless sun, the blood of ancient travelers still stains the stones. In the soaring Andes, where clouds shroud jagged peaks, the forgotten hearts of native tribes still beat beneath the snow. And in the southern lands where glaciers breathe like sleeping giants, the oldest bloodlines, untouched and defiant, still flow quietly through the veins of those who call this land home. Beneath the bustling streets of Santiago, the colorful markets of Valparaiso, and the misty shores of Patagonia, lies a deeper story, one that no history book can fully capture. A story not written in parchment or carved into stone, but etched into the double helix of every soul born under the long shadow of the Andes. Today, we embark on a journey through time and blood, a journey to uncover the invisible threads that weave together the DNA of Chileans. Who were the first dreamers to walk these lands? Who were the conquerors who arrived on foreign winds? And what new people rose from the ashes of their meeting? This is not just a story of genes. It's a story of survival, of loss, of hope. It's the story of how memory, against all odds, survived, buried in the one place no sword could reach, the blood. So, if you think you know the story of Chile, think again, because your DNA remembers everything you've forgotten. Imagine if every glance in the mirror could reveal not just your reflection, but the battles your ancestors fought, the rivers they crossed, the worlds they lost. In Chile, every face is a living map, but few realize the continents hidden beneath their skin. Europe, America, Africa. 3 worlds collided here, and from their ashes, a new people were born. But how did it happen? 5 centuries ago, Spanish sails tore across the Pacific horizon, carrying not just steel and fire, but a tidal wave of genes that would forever alter the destiny of these lands. In the highlands, where the Aymara had already tamed the unforgiving Altiplano for 1,000 years, resistance met resilience. In the dense forests of the south, the fierce Mapuche refused to bow, leaving scars both on history and in their descendants' DNA. And from across another ocean came the stolen sons and daughters of Africa, dragged into a world they never asked to inherit. Yet who, in their quiet survival, left an indelible mark in the bloodlines of a nation. Today, if you map the DNA of Chileans, the numbers tell a haunting story. About 50 to 55% European, mostly Iberian blood, tempered by Basque courage, sharpened by Castilian pride. Some 40 to 45% Native American, the pulse of Mapuche warriors and Aymara herders, still beating in modern veins. And a small but stubborn 2 to 4% African ancestry, often overlooked, yet deeply woven into the nation's soul. But these are just numbers. The real story is not in percentages. It's in the silent battles every cell remembers. Have you ever wondered why the bones of Chilean ancestors carried both the resilience of mountains and the grief of broken worlds? In the dry north, under skies that never forget, the Aymara bloodlines run strong, tethered to a time before memory. In the southern forests, the Mapuche fight lives on, not with swords anymore, but in the helixes and spirals of DNA. And in the beating heart of the country, in Santiago's crowded streets and Valparaiso's tumbling hills, the old Spanish blood hums loudest, wrapped in the colorful cloak of mestizage. Yet few stop to ask, when 3 continents collide inside one soul, who do you become? Are you European by blood but native by spirit? Are you the memory of a Mapuche grandmother you never met? Or the echo of an African ancestor whose name history erased? Each Chilean carries an unspoken legacy, not just of survival, but of becoming something new, something that never existed before. And maybe, deep inside, that's what makes Chilean DNA so powerful. It's not a blend. It's not a compromise. It's a silent rebellion, written not on banners or flags, but in the very architecture of life itself. If your DNA could speak, what story would it tell you tonight? Would it whisper of forgotten mountains, stolen homelands, lost empires? Or would it roar with the pride of 1,000 ancestors who refuse to vanish? The answer is already inside you, waiting, remembering. If DNA could draw a map, Chile's would look like a patchwork stitched by the winds of history. But have you ever wondered why two people standing just a few hundred miles apart can carry bloodlines from entirely different worlds? In the far north, where the desert breathes ancient dust, the Aymara blood runs deep. Their ancestors once climbed these brutal mountains without fear, and their legacy still courses through the veins of those born under the endless sun. Here, the whispers of the Andes echo inside every cell, telling tales of survival where nothing else could endure. But as you travel south, something begins to shift. The center of Chile, bustling with life, with towering cities and the beat of modern ambition, carries a different code. European ancestry dominates these valleys, a legacy of Spanish settlers who built cathedrals with the same hands that sowed seeds of change. Can a city's streets shape the DNA of its people? In Santiago, in Valparaiso, the story is written not in ancient petroglyphs, but in surnames that traveled across oceans, bloodlines that once belonged to conquerors, merchants, dreamers, now blended into a new tapestry. And then, further south still, past rivers that pulse like arteries of the land, you reach a place where time almost stands still. In the dense forests and windswept plains, the Mapuche spirit endures, not just in memory, not just in language, but deep within the double helix of life itself. Here, European genes wane, and the ancient native ancestry rises once more, bold and unbroken. Is it possible that in these forests, the blood remembers a time before ships ever crossed the sea? When you hold a Chilean newborn in your arms in Puerto Montt or Temuco, you are cradling a legacy that stretches back long before the first stone cities of Europe were ever built. But why does ancestry change with every mile? Because history wasn't a single story here. It was a storm, blowing differently in every corner of this long, narrow land. And geography was destiny. The north, isolated by desert and mountain, preserved the oldest bloodlines. The center, opened wide by conquest and commerce, absorbed the most foreign winds. The south, shielded by forests and fierce resistance, guarded its ancient soul with quiet defiance. Even today, your birthplace in Chile can hint at your ancestral past, as if the land itself is still shaping the lives it cradles. So if you ever find yourself staring across the vast distances of Chile, from the scorched bones of the Atacama to the green cathedrals of the south, ask yourself, are you simply seeing a country? Or are you gazing into a living, breathing mosaic of memory and blood? Because in Chile, every step south, every breath of northern wind, every whisper of the Central Plains, is a journey back into the beating heart of who we really are. Have you ever thought why some legacies whisper through the mothers, while others roar through the fathers? In Chile, the story of blood is not just about who mixed with whom. It's about how entire generations carried the weight of memory differently, depending on whether they were born a son or a daughter. If you could listen to the voices inside your cells, you'd hear two melodies, one ancient, one foreign. Look to the maternal line, the unbroken chain of mothers, stretching back beyond time. Here, the DNA sings in the language of the Americas, powerful, resilient, unyielding. More than 80, even 90% of Chilean mitochondrial DNA, the sacred genetic gift passed from mother to child, is Native American, not diluted, not erased, surviving the storms of conquest like a fire that refused to be snuffed out. But turn to the paternal line, the fathers, the sons, the bearers of Y chromosomes, and the melody changes. Now, it hums with the ancient languages of Europe, the signatures of Spanish conquistadors, Basque settlers, and later, German dreamers, all stitched into the code of Chilean men. Why? Because history, brutal and undeniable, tells us that when the Spanish arrived, they did not bring families. They brought ambitions. They brought swords. And the unions that shaped the future of Chile were not always gentle ones. In town squares and forest clearings, in the lonely outposts of the frontier, European men and indigenous women met, sometimes by choice, often by force. The children born of these unions carried a divided inheritance. Their bodies bore the native strength of their mothers. their names the foreign echoes of their fathers. Even now, science uncovers the evidence. Genetic studies show that while native maternal ancestry reigns supreme, European paternal lines dominate the national genome. It's a silent testament to the power dynamics of the past, written not in treaties or chronicles, but etched in the most intimate blueprint of life. What does it mean to inherit two bloodlines at war inside you? To feel the earth beneath your feet, yet know your surname came from across an ocean? To bear the memory of the conquered and the conqueror within the same breath? Maybe it means Chileans are not descendants of history's victors or victims, but of survivors. Survivors who carried both the wound and the weapon, the hope and the sorrow, into the future. In the end, your DNA doesn't ask you to choose sides. It simply asks you to remember. Because inside every Chilean heartbeat, the mothers sing of forgotten forests, and the fathers whisper of distant shores. And it is only together that they create the song that still plays every time a child is born beneath Chile's endless skies. If you think history is only written in dusty books, think again. Sometimes the greatest stories are written in silence, deep inside the blood. Have you ever felt a sudden shiver, standing atop an ancient mountain? A strange connection walking barefoot on ancestral lands? Maybe it's not imagination. Maybe it's memory, coded into your very cells. In Chile, beneath every handshake, behind every smile, a secret resilience hums quietly, almost stubbornly. A resilience born not yesterday, not a century ago, but carved over thousands of brutal, beautiful years. When the first peoples crossed the frozen bridge from Asia into the unknown world, they carried more than courage. They carried blueprints for survival. And in Chile, survival was not an option. It was the only rule. Faced with deserts that could kill a man by noon and mountains that could bury dreams in snow, their bodies adapted. Their genes sharpened like stone tools, growing stronger, more stubborn, more fearless. Even today, scientists find traces of these battles inside modern Chilean DNA. In the far north, ancient genes evolved to drink arsenic-tainted waters without falling ill. Imagine that, the body rewriting itself, generation after generation, to outweed a poison that would kill any outsider. Elsewhere, immune systems carry scars from wars no army remembers, microscopic wars against viruses and plagues brought by foreign invaders. Battles fought in silence, beneath the skin. And on remote islands like Robinson Crusoe, rare genetic footprints hint at stories of isolation, survival, and the strange ways life bends but refuses to break. Have you ever thought about the price your ancestors paid so that you could be here? Not in monuments or medals, but in slow, silent victories hidden deep inside your DNA. Every scar, every adaptation, every invisible change was a choice written in blood. Survive, no matter what. And because they chose to survive, you breathe today. Maybe that's why the Chilean spirit feels different. Why endurance isn't just admired here, it's expected. It's in the water, it's in the stones, and it's in every heartbeat. You are not just someone's descendant. You are the living proof of battles won without glory, struggles endured without witnesses. So the next time you walk through the valleys, cross the mountains, or feel the southern winds lash against your face, remember, you are the dream they refused to let die. Their resilience is not a chapter of the past. It is the blueprint of your existence. And it's still coding the future, one heartbeat at a time. What if the same blood that gave you strength also carried invisible scars? In the dance of survival, not every victory comes without a price. Beneath the vibrant spirit of Chile lies a quieter, darker inheritance, a cost woven into the very DNA that built a nation. Have you ever asked yourself, what did survival truly cost your ancestors? Scientists peering deep into Chilean genomes found something startling. Memories of battles fought not with weapons, but with biology. Certain genes, the ones that once helped ancient peoples survive famine, disease, and brutal climates, now whisper unintended consequences. In the north, where survival demanded drinking arsenic-poisoned waters, evolution gifted a shield. But shields come heavy. Today, a higher risk of chronic illnesses shadows that same resilience. In the south, among the proud descendants of Mapuche warriors, DNA carries echoes of ancient strength, but also higher risks for gallbladder cancer, chronic pulmonary disease, and autoimmune storms. Is it fate? Or is it simply the old survival tools, no longer fitting the new battles we face? Every genetic adaptation is a deal struck with destiny. Survive today and pay the toll tomorrow. No one carved these bargains into stone. They carved them into blood. And now, centuries later, that blood still pays interest on debts no one alive remembers making. Imagine carrying inside you both the cure and the curse, stitched together so tightly that one cannot live without the other. You don't choose what DNA you inherit, but you can choose whether to understand it. Because understanding your genetic story isn't just about knowing where you came from. It's about recognizing the battles you were born already fighting. And maybe, just maybe, honoring those silent costs makes surviving today even more sacred. So the next time you hear your heart pounding after a long climb, or feel the weight of fatigue you can't explain, remember, you're carrying the legacy of 1,000 survivors. And sometimes, even survival comes with a hidden price tag. But it's also proof that you were never fragile. You were built from resilience, from sacrifice, from the relentless will to live, no matter the cost. Have you ever stopped, really stopped, and asked yourself, who am I beneath my skin? Not the name stitched on an ID card, not the city written on a birth certificate, but the deeper self, the self shaped by the battles you never saw, the ancestors you never knew. In Chile, that question becomes even heavier, because here, every cell carries not just life, but layered memories. When you breathe with lungs shaped by Andean mountains, by Spanish winds, by African storms. When your heart beats, it drums with rhythms born from 3 continents, merged into something the world had never seen before. But who are you really? Are you the survivor whose blood defied poisoned rivers and barren deserts? Are you the silent dreamer who crossed oceans without maps, hoping for a land that would welcome you? Or are you the fighter who refused to be erased, even when history tried to silence your story? Maybe you are all of them. Maybe you are something even greater. Because DNA is not destiny. It's a memory, a canvas, 1,000 invisible fingerprints pressed into the story you now get to write. Your ancestors didn't pass down perfection. They passed down resilience. They passed down the stubborn fire that says, I was here. I mattered. I survived. When you walk the streets of Santiago, or feel the mist of Valdivia kiss your skin, know that you are walking through invisible rivers of memory, flowing beneath the concrete, pulsing beneath the soil. Your story didn't start with you, but it will end with what you choose to remember. So ask yourself, when your grandchildren walk these same streets one day, what story will their blood tell? Will it speak only of survival? Or will it sing of a people who remembered, who honored, who dared to understand what it truly meant to be Chilean? Because to know your DNA is to know your true face, a face shaped not by conquest, not by surrender, but by the quiet, unstoppable miracle of life, choosing to continue, again and again, until you were born. And in that miracle, you are not just a piece of history. You are its living proof.